Marcus Chen had been protecting members of the royal family for 12 years. His job required discipline, patience, and the ability to remain invisible when necessary. At 42 years old, he had seen everything from genuine threats to harmless misunderstandings. Nothing surprised him anymore, or so he thought. The autumn morning started like any other. Princess Amelia, third in line to the throne, had scheduled a visit to the newly opened children's hospital in downtown London. Marcus arrived at the palace at 6 a.m. to review the security arrangements one final time. His team of 6 officers had already swept the route and the hospital building twice. Everything looked perfect. Princess Amelia was known for her warmth and genuine care for people. Unlike some royals who seemed distant, she always took time to speak with everyone she met. This quality made her beloved by the public, but gave Marcus extra work. Crowds formed wherever she went, and managing those crowds required constant vigilance. The royal convoy left the palace at 9:30. Marcus sat in the lead vehicle, his eyes scanning every intersection, every rooftop, every parked car. His team communicated through earpieces, reporting clear zones as they passed. The hospital staff had been briefed about the visit weeks ago. Security protocols were in place. Local police had blocked off the streets surrounding the hospital. When they arrived, a small crowd had already gathered behind the barriers. People held flowers, cards, and homemade signs welcoming the princess. Marcus stepped out first, his trained eyes sweeping the area one more time. His team formed a protective circle as Princess Amelia emerged from her vehicle, smiling and waving at the enthusiastic crowd. The hospital director, Dr. Patricia Morrison, greeted them at the entrance. She was a respected physician who had spent 30 years working with sick children. Her face showed genuine excitement about the royal visit. The princess shook her hand warmly, and they walked inside together while Marcus and 2 other officers followed at a respectful distance. The visit proceeded smoothly. Princess Amelia toured the pediatric wards, stopping at each bed to speak with the young patients. She asked about their favorite cartoons, their pets, their dreams. The children's faces lit up with joy. Parents wiped tears from their eyes, touched by her kindness. Marcus watched from corners and doorways, always alert but trying to remain unobtrusive. After 2 hours, they reached the hospital cafeteria, where a small reception had been arranged. Hospital staff, major donors, and some patients' families had been invited to meet the princess. Marcus positioned himself near the entrance, monitoring everyone who entered. His colleague Sarah stood at the opposite end of the room. 2 more officers waited outside. That was when Victoria Whitmore arrived. Marcus noticed her immediately. She pushed through the cafeteria doors with the confidence of someone who owned the place. She wore an expensive navy suit with gold jewelry that caught the light. Her blonde hair was styled perfectly, and her makeup looked professionally done. But what struck Marcus most was her expression. She looked annoyed, as if everyone around her was wasting her time. Victoria was not on the guest list. Marcus knew this because he had memorized every name that morning. He moved toward her smoothly, keeping his face neutral and professional. Before he could speak, she held up one hand dismissively. "I don't need your permission to be here," she announced loudly. Several people nearby turned to look. "Do you know who I am?" Marcus remained calm. He had dealt with difficult people before. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but this is a private event. May I see your invitation?" Victoria's eyes narrowed. "I am Victoria Whitmore. My father donated £5 million to this hospital last year. I don't need an invitation to go anywhere in this building." Her voice carried across the cafeteria. The conversations around them began to quiet as more people noticed the confrontation. Marcus saw Dr. Morrison start moving toward them, concern on her face. "I understand, ma'am," Marcus said quietly, trying to de-escalate the situation. "However, for security reasons during the royal visit, only invited guests are permitted in this area. I'm sure we can arrange for you to meet Princess Amelia at another time." "Security reasons?" Victoria laughed harshly. "I'm not a threat. I'm a philanthropist. My family practically built the west wing of this hospital. You have no right to keep me out." Dr. Morrison reached them, slightly out of breath. "Mrs. Whitmore, what a surprise. We weren't expecting you today." "Obviously," Not since your security guard here is treating me like a criminal, Victoria said sharply. She pointed at Marcus with a perfectly manicured finger. This is outrageous. I demand to speak with whoever is in charge. Marcus caught Sarah's eye across the room. She had moved closer to Princess Amelia, ready to escort her out if necessary. The princess had noticed the commotion, but continued her conversation with a young patient's mother, trusting her security team to handle the situation. Mrs. Whitmore, I apologize for any confusion, Dr. Morrison said diplomatically. As you can see, we're hosting Princess Amelia today. The security protocols are quite strict for royal visits, I'm sure you understand. No, I don't understand, Victoria insisted, her voice rising. My family's money pays for half the equipment in this building. That gives me the right to be anywhere I want, whenever I want. This man, she gestured at Marcus again, needs to learn his place. Marcus maintained his professional composure, but something about her tone bothered him. It was not just entitlement. There was something else underneath, something calculating. He had learned to trust his instincts over 12 years of protection work. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave, Marcus said firmly but politely. You can speak with the hospital administration about attending future events, but today you need to exit this area. Victoria's face flushed red. You're going to regret this. Do you know who my lawyer is? Do you know what kind of trouble I can cause for you, for this hospital? The entire cafeteria had gone silent now. Everyone was watching. Princess Amelia had turned toward them, her expression showing concern. Marcus knew he needed to end this quickly before it disrupted the entire event. I'm doing my job, ma'am, Marcus said calmly. Please leave, or I'll have to escort you out. What happened next would change everything. Victoria Whitmore pulled out her phone and held it up, pointing it directly at Marcus. I'm recording this. Everyone will see how I'm being treated. A decorated philanthropist, a supporter of this hospital, being harassed by some glorified bodyguard. Marcus did not flinch. He had been recorded before. His training covered these situations. Stay calm, remain professional, follow protocol. Never let emotion dictate your actions. That's your right, ma'am, Marcus replied evenly. But you still need to leave this area. Victoria turned toward the crowd of hospital staff and guests. Is everyone seeing this? This is how they treat people who actually care about this hospital. My family has given millions, and this is the thanks we get? Some people looked uncomfortable. Others whispered to each other. A few pulled out their own phones. Marcus knew this could turn into a public relations nightmare, but security came first. Always. That was the rule he lived by. Dr. Morrison tried again. Mrs. Whitmore, perhaps we could step outside and discuss this privately. No, Victoria snapped. I want everyone to see this injustice. I want the princess to know that her security team is abusing innocent people. She started walking toward Princess Amelia, who stood about 30 feet away. Marcus moved quickly but smoothly to block her path. He did not touch her, just positioned himself between Victoria and the princess. Ma'am, I cannot allow you to approach Her Royal Highness, Marcus said firmly. You cannot allow. Victoria's voice reached a new pitch. Who do you think you are? I have every right to speak to her. I'm not some crazy person off the street. I'm Victoria Whitmore. Sarah had now moved directly beside Princess Amelia, ready to guide her toward the exit if necessary. The other two officers had entered the cafeteria and were moving into position. Marcus could see the calculation on Victoria's face. She was not afraid. She was enjoying this. That realization made him even more cautious. Final warning, ma'am, Marcus said. Leave now, or we will remove you from the premises. Victoria smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. Go ahead, touch me. I dare you. My lawyers will have this entire security operation shut down. I'll sue you personally. I'll sue the palace. I'll sue this hospital. By the time I'm done, you'll wish you had just let me through. Marcus had dealt with threats before, but something felt wrong about this whole situation. Victoria had escalated too quickly, too deliberately. Most people backed down when faced with security protocols. She seemed to be pushing for confrontation. Princess Amelia stepped forward before Marcus could respond. Sarah tried to stop her, but the princess gently touched her arm and moved past. Mrs. Whitmore? Princess Amelia's voice was calm and kind. I'm so sorry for the confusion. I'm sure we can sort this out. Victoria's expression changed instantly. The anger melted into a gracious smile. Your Royal Highness, thank you. Finally, someone with sense and manners. Your security guard has been incredibly rude to me. Marcus tensed but said nothing. He trusted the princess, but he did not trust Victoria Whitmore. I'm sure everyone is just trying to do their jobs, Princess Amelia said diplomatically. These events do require strict security measures. I hope you understand. Of course I understand security, Victoria replied smoothly. But there's a difference between security and harassment. I was simply trying to attend a reception at a hospital my family has supported for years. Instead, I was treated like a criminal. She gestured toward Marcus with theatrical dismay. This man blocked my way, raised his voice at me, and made me feel unwelcome in a building my father's donations helped construct. Marcus knew better than to interrupt, but he was taking mental notes of every word. Victoria was rewriting the entire interaction. Princess Amelia looked at Marcus with questioning eyes. He gave a subtle shake of his head. She understood. Something was not right here. Well, I appreciate your family's generosity to the hospital, the princess said carefully. Perhaps we could arrange a proper meeting another time when things are less hectic. That would be lovely, Victoria said, her tone suddenly warm. I would be honored. But I do think something should be done about your security team. They clearly need better training in how to treat respectable citizens. Before anyone could respond, a new voice entered the conversation. Victoria, what are you doing here? Everyone turned. A man in his 60s had entered the cafeteria. He wore an expensive suit and carried himself with authority. His face showed confusion and concern. Victoria's confident expression faltered for just a moment. Father, I was just... You weren't invited to this event, the man said flatly. He turned to Dr. Morrison. Patricia, I apologize. I had no idea Victoria was coming here today. Dr. Morrison looked relieved to see him. Richard, it's fine. We were just having a small misunderstanding. Richard Whitmore, Victoria's father, walked over to Marcus. I apologize for my daughter's behavior. She had no business interrupting this event. Father, I was simply trying to... Victoria began, but her father cut her off with a sharp look. We'll discuss this later, he said firmly. Then he turned to Princess Amelia and bowed slightly. Your Royal Highness, please forgive this disruption. My daughter sometimes forgets that generosity does not buy special privileges. Princess Amelia smiled graciously. No harm done, Mr. Whitmore. We all appreciate everything your family does for this hospital. Victoria's face had gone pale, then red. The control she had wielded moments ago was slipping away. I don't need you to apologize for me, she told her father. I did nothing wrong. That security guard was the problem. Marcus noticed several people in the crowd holding up their phones. They had recorded the entire exchange. The video would show exactly what happened, including Victoria's father essentially contradicting her version of events. Richard Whitmore ignored his daughter's protest and addressed Marcus directly. You were just doing your job. I respect that. Victoria will not bother you or the princess again today. Thank you, sir, Marcus replied professionally. Victoria looked around at the crowd, at the cameras, at her father's disapproving face. She seemed to realize that her plan, whatever it had been, was falling apart. This is ridiculous, she muttered. I'm leaving. But this isn't over. She turned and walked toward the exit, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. The cafeteria remained silent until she pushed through the doors and disappeared. Richard Whitmore sighed heavily. I'm very sorry about that, everyone. Please continue enjoying the reception. Your Royal Highness, thank you for your patience and grace. Princess Amelia nodded warmly. Thank you for your understanding, Mr. Whitmore. As the tension broke and conversations gradually resumed, Marcus exchanged glances with Sarah. They both knew this was not the end of the story. Victoria Whitmore did not seem like someone who accepted defeat easily. What none of them realized was that Victoria's performance had been carefully calculated, and the real trouble was just beginning. The royal visit concluded without further incidents. Princess Amelia spent another hour speaking with patients and staff, showing no sign that the confrontation had bothered her. Marcus admired her composure. She had been born into a life of public scrutiny and had learned early how to handle difficult situations with grace. On the drive back to the palace, Princess Amelia spoke to Marcus directly for the first time that day. You handled that well, Marcus. I could see you were protecting me without escalating the situation. Thank you, Your Highness, Marcus replied. I apologize that it disrupted your event. Don't apologize, she said firmly. That woman wanted a confrontation. I could see it in her eyes. You did exactly what you should have done. Marcus appreciated her words, but his instincts were still bothering him. Something about Victoria Whitmore's behavior felt calculated, rehearsed even. Most entitled people got angry when challenged, but they usually backed down when faced with authority. Victoria had pushed harder, almost like she wanted to be removed from the event. When they arrived at the palace, Marcus went through his usual post-event debrief with his team. They reviewed what went right, what could have been handled better, and any potential threats that needed monitoring. Everyone agreed that Victoria Whitmore's behavior was concerning but not dangerous. She's just another rich person who thinks money buys access to everything, Sarah said as they wrapped up the meeting. We see them all the time. Marcus nodded, but he was not convinced. Let's keep an eye on her social media and any press mentions. Something felt off about the whole thing. He went home that evening to his small apartment in South London. His wife Jennifer was a nurse who worked night shifts. They had been married for 15 years and had 2 teenage daughters. His family understood the demands of his job, the odd hours, the stress, the constant vigilance. How was the hospital visit? Jennifer asked as she prepared for her shift. Interesting, Marcus said, and he told her about Victoria Whitmore. Jennifer frowned. Be careful with that one. Women like that don't like being told no, especially in public. She'll try to get back at you somehow. Marcus kissed his wife goodbye and spent the evening helping his daughters with homework. He tried to push thoughts of Victoria Whitmore out of his mind, but Jennifer's warning echoed in his thoughts. The next morning, Marcus woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. His phone had been on silent overnight. His heart raced as he unlocked it, fearing something had happened to Princess Amelia or another member of the royal family. Instead, he found messages from colleagues, friends, and even his supervisor. They all said the same thing: check the internet. Marcus opened his laptop and typed his name into a search engine. His stomach dropped. Victoria Whitmore had posted a video on social media. It had been edited carefully, showing only the moments where Marcus had blocked her path and told her to leave. His words were taken out of context. Her accusations of harassment and abuse were front and center. The video had been shared thousands of times overnight. The caption read, "Royal security guard attacks innocent hospital donor. This is how they treat people who try to support charity. Disgusting abuse of power. Share to expose this bully." Marcus felt sick. The video made him look aggressive, unreasonable, and intimidating. It did not show Victoria's threats, her refusal to follow security protocols, or her father's apology. It was a masterpiece of manipulation. His phone rang. It was his supervisor, Commander James Patterson. "Marcus, get to the office immediately. We need to talk." The drive to Palace Security Headquarters felt like the longest journey of Marcus's life. His mind raced through possibilities. Would he be fired? Suspended? Would this ruin his career? Commander Patterson was waiting in his office with 2 other senior officers and a woman Marcus did not recognize. She introduced herself as Claire Stevens from the palace's public relations department. "Sit down." "Marcus," Commander Patterson said, his tone unreadable. Marcus sat, his hands clasped tightly in his lap. "I assume you've seen the video?" Claire Stevens began. "It's gone viral. We're getting calls from news organizations. Social media is exploding, and Victoria Whitmore has given interviews to 3 different tabloids this morning." "What is she saying?" Marcus asked, though he could guess. "She's claiming you physically intimidated her, verbally abused her, and prevented her from exercising her rights as a hospital donor. She's saying you targeted her because she's a woman. She's suggesting racial profiling." Claire paused. "She's very good at playing the victim." Marcus felt anger rising in his chest, but he pushed it down. "Everything I did was by protocol. She was not on the guest list. She refused to leave when asked. She tried to approach Princess Amelia without authorization." "We know," Commander Patterson said. "We've reviewed the full security footage from the hospital. We have statements from Dr. Morrison, from hospital staff, from other guests. We even have videos from other attendees that show the complete picture." "Then why am I here?" Marcus asked. Claire Stevens leaned forward. "Because public perception doesn't care about facts right now. Victoria Whitmore has positioned herself as a victim of an aggressive security guard. She has money, connections, and a very expensive public relations team. They're crafting a narrative, and it's spreading fast." "What do you want me to do?" Marcus asked. "Nothing," Commander Patterson said firmly. You did your job correctly. We're going to release a statement supporting you and explaining the security protocols. We're going to share the complete footage if necessary. But Marcus, you need to understand something. He paused, making eye contact. Victoria Whitmore is not going to stop. This is a campaign. She wants attention. She wants revenge for being embarrassed, and she's willing to destroy your reputation to get it. Marcus absorbed this information. Why me specifically? I was just doing my job. Because you're accessible, Claire explained. She can't attack the princess directly. She can't go after the royal family. But you? You're a regular person. You're the face she can put on the aggressive security state or whatever narrative she's building. The meeting continued for another hour. They discussed legal options, public statements, and security measures for Marcus and his family. Victoria Whitmore had posted his full name online. It would not be difficult for someone to find his address. When Marcus finally left the office, he felt exhausted. He had faced dangerous situations in his career. But this was different. This was an attack on his character, his reputation, his integrity. His phone buzzed with another message. It was from Sarah. Just saw the news. We all know you did the right thing. Stay strong. Marcus appreciated the support, but he wondered if doing the right thing would be enough. Victoria Whitmore had resources, connections, and a story that people seemed eager to believe. What Marcus did not know was that Victoria had made a critical mistake in her carefully planned campaign. She had underestimated two things: the loyalty of the people who actually knew what happened, and the power of the truth when it finally came to light. The war had just begun, but the battlefield was about to shift in ways no one expected. The story exploded across media platforms over the next 48 hours. Victoria Whitmore appeared on morning talk shows, sat for newspaper interviews, and posted daily updates on her social media accounts. She had positioned herself as a crusader against security overreach and discrimination. I was simply trying to support a hospital that my family has donated millions to, she told a popular television host, her eyes glistening with what looked like tears. Instead, I was humiliated, threatened, and made to feel like a criminal. All because one man on a power trip decided I didn't belong there. The host nodded sympathetically. And you say this security guard specifically targeted you? Absolutely, Victoria replied. He was aggressive from the moment I arrived. He didn't even give me a chance to explain who I was or why I was there. It was frightening, honestly. Marcus watched the interview from his living room, Jennifer sitting beside him. His daughters were upstairs, but they had already dealt with classmates asking about their father, the mean security guard. It was taking a toll on the entire family. She's lying, Jennifer said flatly. Anyone with half a brain can see that. Not everyone has half a brain, Marcus muttered. The comment section below the interview video was filled with people calling him a bully, demanding he be fired, and suggesting various punishments. But not everyone believed Victoria's story. The palace had released a carefully worded statement supporting Marcus in explaining security protocols for royal events. Dr. Morrison, from the hospital, had given an interview stating that Marcus had acted professionally. Several guests who attended the reception had posted their own videos showing the complete interaction. The problem was that Victoria's edited version had reached millions of people first. The full story was struggling to catch up. On the third day after the incident, something unexpected happened. A video appeared online from an account called TruthSeeker247. It was security footage from the hospital, but not from the cafeteria. It showed Victoria in the parking lot before the event, sitting in her car and speaking on the phone. The audio was clear. "Yes, I'm here," Victoria said into her phone. "I'm going to go in now and cause a scene. Make sure you're ready to edit the footage quickly. We need to get ahead of any official narrative. No, don't worry about my father. He won't find out until it's already viral. This is going to be perfect. That security guard won't know what hit him." She laughed, checked her makeup in the mirror, and then stepped out of her car with a determined expression. The video ended. Within hours, it had been shared hundreds of thousands of times. The comments section exploded with people calling Victoria a fraud, a liar, and worse. News organizations that had sympathetically interviewed her now posted articles questioning her credibility. Marcus was in a meeting with Commander Patterson when they learned about the video. Claire Stevens from Public Relations rushed in with her laptop. "You need to see this," she said, turning the screen toward them. They watched in silence. When it finished, Commander Patterson leaned back in his chair. Where did this come from? We don't know, Claire admitted. The account is anonymous, but we verified the footage is real. It's from the hospital's parking lot security system. Someone at the hospital leaked it? Marcus asked. Possibly, Claire said. Or someone hacked into their system. Either way, it changes everything. She was right. By that evening, Victoria Whitmore had deleted all her social media accounts. The tabloids that had championed her cause were now writing exposés about her previous controversies. It turned out this was not the first time she had manufactured a scandal for attention. A journalist named Emma Richardson published a detailed investigation into Victoria's history. She had filed multiple complaints against store employees, restaurant staff, and service workers over the years. Many of these complaints included threats of lawsuits and social media campaigns. Most businesses settled quietly to avoid bad publicity. Victoria Whitmore has turned victimhood into a weapon, Emma wrote in her article. She targets people who are just doing their jobs, people who cannot fight back against her wealth and connections. She films carefully edited videos, crafts sympathetic narratives, and destroys reputations for sport. The article included interviews with 3 people who had lost their jobs after Victoria's campaigns against them. One was a hotel receptionist who had asked Victoria to wait in line like other guests. Another was a restaurant manager who refused to give her a table that was already reserved. The third was a retail worker who could not process a return outside of store policy. All of them had been labeled as rude, aggressive, or discriminatory by Victoria. All of them had lost their jobs when their employers chose to appease an influential customer rather than stand by their employees. I had no way to defend myself, the hotel receptionist, a young woman named Sophie, told Emma. She had videos, lawyers, and thousands of followers. I had nothing. My boss fired me the same day her video went viral. Marcus read the article with a mixture of relief and sadness. Relief that people now understood what kind of person Victoria was. Sadness that others had suffered at her hands before him, and he had only been protected because he worked for the royal family. The palace released a second statement, this one much stronger. It condemned Victoria's actions, praised Marcus for his professionalism, and announced they were pursuing legal action for defamation and attempted character assassination. Richard Whitmore, Victoria's father, issued his own statement. I am deeply ashamed of my daughter's behavior. She has brought dishonor to our family name and caused harm to innocent people. I will be stepping down from my position on the hospital board and redirecting our family's charitable efforts to be managed by trustees who will ensure they serve genuine needs rather than my daughter's ego. Victoria herself remained silent. No more interviews, no more social media posts, no more public appearances. But Marcus knew this was not over. People like Victoria did not simply disappear when their schemes were exposed. They regrouped, they planned, they waited for another opportunity. He was right to be concerned. 1 week after the parking lot video surfaced, Marcus received a call from an unknown number. He almost did not answer, but something made him pick up. Mr. Chen, a woman's voice said. My name is Detective Angela Martinez from the Metropolitan Police. I need to speak with you about Victoria Whitmore. Marcus felt his heart rate increase. What about her? We've received information that suggests Ms. Whitmore may have been involved in similar incidents at other locations, including some that might constitute criminal fraud. We're building a case and we need your statement about what happened at the hospital. Marcus agreed to meet with the detective the next day. When he arrived at the station, he found not just Detective Martinez, but a team of investigators who had been looking into Victoria's activities. She's been running this scam for years, Detective Martinez explained. She targets people in service positions, creates confrontations, records edited videos, and then either sues or demands settlements. We estimate she's made over £2 million from these schemes. She's been profiting from this? Marcus asked, shocked. Absolutely, another investigator said. Businesses pay her to go away. She threatens them with bad publicity, boycotts, and viral videos. Most companies decide it's cheaper to give her £50,000 or £100,000 than to fight her publicly. But why target me? Marcus asked. I don't have money to give her. You were different, Detective Martinez said. We think she was building her public profile. If she could take down royal security, prove that even they couldn't stop her, it would have made her untouchable. She could have demanded anything from anyone after that. Marcus sat back, processing this information. Victoria had not just been an entitled woman having a tantrum. She had been executing a calculated plan to expand her power and influence. "What happens now?" he asked. Detective Martinez smiled grimly. "Now we build a case. And with your testimony and the evidence we've gathered from her other victims, Victoria Whitmore is going to face real consequences for the first time in her life." But even as Marcus left the police station feeling vindicated, he could not shake the feeling that Victoria would have one more move to make. People who had gotten away with schemes for years did not go down without a fight. 3 weeks passed in relative quiet. Marcus returned to his normal duties, protecting Princess Amelia and other members of the royal family. The media frenzy had died down. Victoria Whitmore's name disappeared from headlines. Detective Martinez kept Marcus updated on the investigation, which was progressing steadily as more victims came forward. Life seemed to be returning to normal. Marcus's daughters stopped getting questions at school. Jennifer's co-workers stopped asking about the incident. Even the palace security team had moved on to discussing other matters during their briefings. Then everything changed on a Tuesday morning in November. Marcus was having breakfast with his family when his phone rang. It was Commander Patterson, and he sounded stressed. "Marcus, get to the palace immediately. We have a situation." "What kind of situation?" Marcus asked, already standing up and grabbing his keys. "Victoria Whitmore has filed a lawsuit. Not against you. Against Princess Amelia." Marcus felt his blood run cold. "On what grounds?" "She's claiming the princess ordered you to harass her. She's suing for emotional distress, defamation, and loss of reputation. She's asking for £10 million. The drive to the palace was a blur. Marcus's mind raced through the implications. Victoria was attacking the royal family directly now. This was not just about him anymore. This was something much bigger. When he arrived, he found the palace in controlled chaos. Legal advisors, public relations experts, and security officials filled the meeting rooms. Princess Amelia was there too, looking composed but concerned. "Marcus," she said when she saw him, "I'm so sorry you're being dragged into this again." "Your Highness, you have nothing to apologize for," Marcus replied. "This is my fault for engaging with her in the first place." "Absolutely not," Commander Patterson interrupted. "You followed protocol exactly. This is Victoria Whitmore's fault and hers alone." The head legal advisor, a stern woman named Margaret Fuller, addressed the room. Victoria's lawsuit claims that Princess Amelia personally instructed Marcus Chen to remove her from the hospital event using excessive force. She's alleging that the princess has a pattern of discriminating against women who might overshadow her at charity events. "That's insane," Sarah spoke up. She had been called in as a witness. The princess barely acknowledged the situation until Mrs. Whitmore was already causing a scene. "Insane or not, it's a lawsuit filed in civil court," Margaret said. "And it's getting significant media attention because she's named Princess Amelia as a defendant." Princess Amelia shook her head. She knows the royal family typically settles these things quietly to avoid prolonged public scrutiny. She's betting that we'll pay her to go away. "That's exactly what she's doing," Detective Martinez said. She had been invited to the meeting to share information about the criminal investigation. This is her standard playbook, just scaled up. File an outrageous lawsuit, generate publicity, and wait for a settlement offer. "We're not settling," Princess Amelia said firmly. "I won't reward this behavior, and I won't let Marcus take the fall for doing his job correctly." Margaret Fuller looked surprised. "Your Highness, fighting this publicly could be messy. The trial would attract enormous media coverage. Every detail of the incident would be examined. Victoria Whitmore's lawyers are very good at manipulating public opinion." "Then we'll be better," Princess Amelia said. "We have the truth on our side. We have video evidence. We have witnesses. And we have Marcus, who has served this family with honor and integrity for 12 years. I'm not abandoning him now." Marcus felt a surge of gratitude. He had always respected Princess Amelia, but this was different. She was putting herself in a difficult position to protect him. Over the next few weeks, the legal teams prepared for battle. Victoria's lawyers filed motion after motion, each designed to grab headlines and put pressure on the palace. They demanded the release of all security footage from the hospital. They subpoenaed emails between palace officials. They requested psychological evaluations of Marcus, but the palace legal team was ready. They filed counter motions. They provided evidence of Victoria's history of fraudulent lawsuits. They submitted the parking lot video showing her planning the entire confrontation. The case became a media sensation. Every day brought new developments, new accusations, new revelations. Victoria appeared on television again, this time with tears streaming down her face, claiming she was being bullied by the most powerful family in the country. "They have unlimited resources," she told a sympathetic interviewer. "They're trying to destroy me because I dared to stand up to their security guard. This isn't about money. This is about justice." But Emma Richardson, the journalist who had first investigated Victoria's history, published another article. This one included financial records showing that Victoria had received settlements from 17 different businesses over the past 8 years. The total amount was over £3 million. "Victoria Whitmore is not a victim," Emma wrote. "She's a professional victim. She has turned manufactured outrage into a lucrative career, and she's finally targeting someone who won't back down." The article included interviews with more of Victoria's past targets. A store manager who lost his job after Victoria claimed he had been rude to her. A museum director who was forced to resign after Victoria accused him of discrimination. A charity worker who had to move to another city after Victoria's social media followers harassed her family. Each story followed the same pattern. Victoria would create a confrontation, record edited footage, and then threaten legal action unless she received compensation. Most victims settled because fighting her was too expensive and emotionally draining. "I lost everything," the charity worker, a woman named Lisa, said through tears. "My job, my reputation, my sense of security, all because I asked her to follow the rules at a fundraising event." Public opinion began to shift dramatically. People who had initially sympathized with Victoria now saw her as a predator who exploited the real struggles of actual victims. Social media turned against her. Protest groups formed demanding that she drop the lawsuit, but Victoria doubled down. She gave a press conference outside the courthouse surrounded by her lawyers. "I will not be silenced," she declared. "I will not be intimidated. The royal family thinks they can crush anyone who challenges them, but I'm not going away. This case will go to trial, and the truth will come out." Her lead lawyer, a man named Gerald Hutchins who specialized in high-profile defamation cases, spoke next. "Our client has been subjected to a coordinated campaign of harassment and character assassination. We have evidence that will shock the public when presented in court. The palace has abused its power, and we will hold them accountable." Marcus watched the press conference with Detective Martinez. They were preparing his testimony for the criminal trial, which was proceeding in parallel with the civil lawsuit. "She's desperate," Detective Martinez observed. "When people like her get cornered, they get dangerous. What do you mean?" Marcus asked. "I mean she's going to pull something. One last big move to try to win public sympathy or force a settlement. People who run scams this long don't just accept defeat gracefully." Detective Martinez was right to be worried. 2 days before the civil trial was scheduled to begin, Victoria held another press conference. This time she had someone with her, a young woman in her 20s who looked nervous and uncomfortable. "This is Rebecca Thornton," Victoria announced to the gathered reporters. She worked as a security officer at various royal events over the past 5 years. "She's here to tell you about the culture of harassment and intimidation within the Royal Protection Services." Rebecca stepped forward, her hands shaking slightly. "I witnessed multiple incidents where security officers used excessive force against guests. I was told to remain silent about it or I would lose my job." Marcus Chen was one of the worst offenders. The reporters erupted with questions. Victoria smiled triumphantly. She had found a witness who would support her claims. Marcus watched the press conference from Commander Patterson's office. His heart sank. He did not recognize Rebecca Thornton, but if she had worked security at royal events, she might have crossed paths with him at some point. "Do we know her?" Marcus asked. Commander Patterson was already typing on his computer. "Running her through our database now got her. Rebecca Thornton worked for a private security firm that we contracted for 3 events in 2023. She was let go after 1 month." "Why was she let go?" "According to the notes, she was repeatedly absent without notice, failed security clearance updates, and was found intoxicated on duty at one event. She was terminated and escorted from the premises. So she has a grudge against the Royal Protection Services," Marcus said. "Exactly. And Victoria found her somehow." Commander Patterson picked up his phone. I'm calling Margaret Fuller. We need to get ahead of this immediately. The palace released a statement within hours, detailing Rebecca Thornton's employment history and the reasons for her termination. They provided documentation showing she had worked only 3 events, none of which Marcus had been assigned to. But the damage was done. Victoria now had a witness who would testify against Marcus in court. It did not matter that her credibility was questionable. It gave Victoria's legal team ammunition and gave the media a new angle to cover. That evening, Marcus sat in his living. The civil trial began on a cold Monday morning in January. The courthouse was surrounded by news crews, protesters, and curious onlookers. Some held signs supporting Victoria, claiming she was standing up against royal privilege. Others held signs supporting Marcus and Princess Amelia, calling for justice against fraud. Marcus arrived with Jennifer and his legal team. Commander Patterson and Sarah were there as witnesses. Princess Amelia would testify later in the week. The princess had insisted on appearing in person, rather than submitting written testimony, another sign of her commitment to seeing this through. Victoria arrived separately, dressed in a conservative navy suit that seemed carefully chosen to make her appear sympathetic and professional. Her lawyer, Gerald Hutchins, walked beside her, confident and smiling for the cameras. The judge, a stern woman named Justice Helen Morrison, called the courtroom to order. She made it clear from the beginning that she would tolerate no theatrics or media manipulation in her courtroom. "This is a court of law, not a television show," she announced. "We will examine evidence, hear testimony, and reach a verdict based on facts. Nothing else matters in this room." Victoria's legal team presented their case first. Gerald Hutchins was a skilled orator who painted a picture of an innocent woman being brutalized by an aggressive security guard under orders from a princess who wanted to maintain absolute control over her public appearances. "Ladies and gentlemen," he addressed the jury, "this case is about power. The power of the royal family to crush anyone who dares to exist in their presence without permission. My client, Victoria Whitmore, is a generous philanthropist who has donated millions to charity. She attended a hospital event at a facility her family had supported for years. And what happened? She was confronted, intimidated, and forcibly removed by Marcus Chen, acting under direct orders from Princess Amelia. He played Victoria's edited video, showing only the moments where Marcus blocked her path and asked her to leave. He called Rebecca Thornton to the stand, who testified about allegedly witnessing Marcus being aggressive at other events. But when Margaret Fuller began cross-examining Rebecca, the testimony fell apart. "Ms. Thornton, you claim you witnessed Mr. Chen being aggressive at multiple royal events, correct?" Margaret asked. "Yes," Rebecca replied, though she looked less confident than she had during her earlier testimony. "Can you name these events specifically? Dates, locations, specific incidents?" Rebecca hesitated. There were several. "I don't remember exact dates." "You don't remember the dates of incidents you claim were so traumatic and concerning that you're willing to testify about them in court?" Margaret's tone was sharp but professional. "It was a few years ago," Rebecca said defensively. Margaret pulled out documents. "According to employment records, you worked exactly 3 events for a security company contracted by the palace. All 3 occurred in May 2023. Mr. Chen was not assigned to any of those events. He was protecting another member of the royal family in Scotland during that entire month. So how exactly did you witness him being aggressive?" The courtroom went silent. Rebecca's face turned red. I must be confused about which guard it was. "Or you're lying," Margaret said flatly. "You were terminated from your position for being intoxicated on duty, were you not?" "That's not..." "Yes or no, Ms. Thornton? Were you terminated for being intoxicated while working a royal event?" Rebecca looked at Victoria's legal table desperately, but Gerald Hutchins would not meet her eyes. "Yes," she finally admitted. "And you were paid £20,000 by Victoria Whitmore to provide this testimony, were you not?" The courtroom erupted. The judge called for order. Rebecca began to cry. "Answer the question, Ms. Thornton," Justice Morrison said firmly. "She said it was to compensate me for my trauma," Rebecca sobbed. "She said I deserve justice too." Gerald Hutchins stood up. "Your Honor, I was not aware of any payment to this witness. This is highly irregular." "Sit down, Mr. Hutchins," Justice Morrison said coldly. "We'll be discussing your knowledge of this payment later. Ms. Thornton, you are dismissed from the stand." and I'm referring this matter to the police for possible perjury charges. The momentum had shifted dramatically. When Margaret Fuller began presenting the palace's case, she had a jury that was now deeply skeptical of everything Victoria claimed. She started with the parking lot video, playing the full footage of Victoria planning her confrontation. The jury watched Victoria's face as she laughed about what she was going to do. How she was going to make Marcus pay for being a small person with a bit of power. Then came the hospital security footage, the complete version showing the entire interaction. The jury saw Victoria refusing to leave, making threats and deliberately escalating the situation. They saw Marcus remaining professional throughout. They saw Victoria's father arriving and apologizing for his daughter's behavior. Dr. Morrison from the hospital testified about the security protocols and confirmed that Victoria was not on the guest list. Hospital staff testified that Marcus had been polite and professional. Guests at the event who had filmed their own videos testified that Victoria had seemed to be performing for the cameras. When Princess Amelia took the stand, the courtroom was packed. She testified clearly and calmly. "I never gave any orders regarding Mrs. Whitmore," she said. "I didn't even know who she was until she created a disturbance at the event." Marcus Chen acted entirely on his own judgment, following standard security protocols. "He was protecting me, as is his job. That's all that happened." Gerald Hutchins tried to rattle her during cross-examination, suggesting she had a history of being difficult with female attendees at her events, but Princess Amelia handled it with grace. "Mr. Hutchins, I attend over 200 events every year. I meet thousands of people, many of them women. I have no interest in who overshadows me or doesn't. I'm there to do my job, to support charities and causes I believe in. Your client created a security situation at a children's hospital. That's the only relevant fact." Then came Sophie Walsh's testimony. She told her story of being targeted by Victoria 3 years earlier. She explained how Victoria had planned the entire confrontation, recorded edited footage, and then demanded money to prevent a lawsuit. Margaret Fuller introduced the text messages between Victoria and Gerald Hutchins, the ones that showed them planning these schemes together. Gerald's face went pale as they were displayed on the courtroom screens. "These messages show clear conspiracy to commit fraud," Margaret told the jury. "Ms. Whitmore and her lawyer have been running this operation for years, targeting vulnerable people who couldn't fight back. This time they made the mistake of targeting someone who could." The final witness was Detective Martinez, who testified about the ongoing criminal investigation into Victoria's activities. She revealed that they had identified 23 separate incidents of suspected fraud, with potential losses to victims exceeding £4 million. When all the testimony was complete, the jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. When they returned, the four women stood to deliver the verdict. In the matter of Victoria Whitmore versus Princess Amelia and Marcus Chen, we find in favor of the defendants on all counts. Furthermore, we recommend that the court investigate Ms. Whitmore for malicious prosecution. Victoria's face crumbled. She had lost completely, but it was not over yet. Justice Morrison addressed the courtroom. "Ms. Whitmore, I am dismissing your lawsuit with prejudice, meaning you cannot refile these claims. Additionally, I am ordering you to pay all legal costs for the defendants, which I estimate will exceed £500,000. I am also referring this matter to the Crown Prosecution Service for criminal charges." She turned to Gerald Hutchins. "Mr. Hutchins, I am referring you to the Law Society for Investigation of Professional Misconduct. If the evidence presented here is accurate, you have violated numerous ethical standards and may have engaged in criminal conspiracy." The next day, Victoria Whitmore was arrested on charges of fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, perjury, and extortion. Her lawyer, Gerald Hutchins, was arrested on similar charges. Both were denied bail due to flight risk. The story dominated headlines for weeks. Victims that Victoria had targeted over the years came forward, emboldened by her arrest. The Crown Prosecution Service built a case that included testimony from 32 different people she had defrauded. Marcus returned to his regular duties, though he found himself recognized wherever he went. Most people were supportive, thanking him for standing up to someone who had hurt so many others. A few still believed Victoria's version of events, but their numbers dwindled as more evidence became public. 6 months later, Victoria Whitmore was convicted on 17 counts of fraud and sentenced to 8 years in prison. She was also ordered to pay restitution to her victims totaling over £3 million. Her father had cut her off financially, so she had no way to pay beyond selling her possessions. Gerald Hutchins received a 6-year sentence and was disbarred. Several other lawyers who had worked on Victoria's cases were investigated, though most were found to have been manipulated by her and Hutchins rather than being active conspirators. Marcus stood outside the courthouse after the sentencing, surrounded by reporters. Jennifer stood beside him, holding his hand. "How do you feel about the verdict?"